All right, so here I am. If if you are free, why is it that you pay so much to exist on every level of life? I know that I'm capable of creating shelter because I created this space that I'm in right now. I had some friends help me, because some of the things were kind of heavy, but I paid them for the time. And the problem is that I had to pay money to be able to have this space to create it, even though I already paid the person that owned it, right? And that's insane because this organization, they call themselves government, they have been threatening me and everybody around me for a long time that we're going to steal your property and make you homeless if you can't afford to pay us. And we're going to keep raising the rates every year that you have to pay us. And if you can't pay us, we're going to send men with guns to kick you off of your property and steal what you have made to be yours. And if you want to travel into town to work, you better pay for permission to travel in your automobile across the public rights of way that have existed before government ever even thought of existing, right? It used to be that you could go from here to there. And I have a disability. I can't carry thousands of pounds of things with me. And so I use a truck, that I bought. I paid for. It's mine. Nobody else should own it or be able to control it. But if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll see that even if I'm not in the act of commerce, which they have the right to regulate, they are pushing their will upon us, and they're forcing you to get all sorts of permissions and little stickers and little tin plates that you can put on your car so they can identify you. It's important for people to be held accountable for their actions, but that's not what they're doing. They're just using it for revenue generation times, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. The government was like, well, sorry, there's just nothing we could do about it, right? Because you're only able to regulate those who are willing to obey. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I was tired of it at like 4 years old. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I thought we were all free here. Why are there kings and queens? Why is there somebody somewhere else telling you what to do and how to live your life? Right? I don't even remember asking to be born here. So at least it should only be by my consent now that I'm in a living, breathing body that should be mine, right? I haven't given control of this to anybody else. Somebody somewhere else in the past maybe has created a contract with the same name that I was given at birth, but I didn't do that. I didn't subject to surgeries without anesthesia. This is supposed to be a free will experience, right? That's what I thought, I guess. Um, but control and oppression of other people is not honoring free will. The first violation of free will, which is free will, is the first law. If you are operating in your free will capacity, you are a free, beautiful, blessed and beloved, independent and empowered child of God, right? Child of the most high essence within you. Well, the first violation of the first with that, and it's supposed to be only by the consent of the governed that somebody somewhere else has the right to represent you. But I don't want anybody else to represent me unless they're going to do unless they're doing my will. But as I've seen public servants come and public servants go, I don't feel represented by any of them. But yet, in ways, I'm still forced to support them, because if I don't support them, you're going to send men with guns to kill me, to steal my property, because I won't obey what you're willing to obey. The boomers, they're the ones that everybody blames on a lot of things. Well, the boomers and the millennials and but really, everybody here is to blame, because they're not operating in their free will consciously. They're allowing their free will decisions to align with the advertising of the idols broadcasted to the masses over television programming. In this cult you're being trained to see and act a certain way. And a lot of people are very similar. It's more than just an archetype. It's which box do you fit in? Because if you don't fit in a box, then we don't know how to categorize you, and we don't know which neighborhood to put you in. We don't know what cell block. We don't know what cell block to put you on. Right? What I guess I'm gonna just keep this short because I got work to go do. But um, but I can see a lot of people who aren't talking. They feel oppressed. They feel bullied. They are just, and yet it's so expensive to live their life that a lot of people can't even afford basic shelter. I know how to build shelter for out of trash. And I'm not talking the cardboard box that's blowing down the road. I'm talking I'm talking real, like, castles. Castles can be made out of trash, right? Because some people haul rocks to the dump. Can you believe that? They will pay to haul away rocks to a landfill, right? I know people have done it, so don't think that this isn't happening. And they pay to have bottles, glass bottles that look a lot like bricks, to be hauled away to the landfill. And they pay for metals, precious metals. Precious metals aren't just gold and silver, uranium or plutonium. They're aluminum or aluminium and steel and copper and cast iron, and all sorts of things are precious when used in the right ways. And we can be building shelters for the homeless instead of making it illegal for them to exist. I mean, I can understand that cities are places that commerce is intended to be. Um, that's where commerce is supposed to happen, is in cities. So to have homeless people littering the streets and taking up the parks and camping in front of people's residences and things like that, I can see how it's a problem. But there's a balance to these problems and the solutions. That homeless person can't go to the forest, because the Forest Service will then arrest them for trespassing on public lands, right? In the city, but you can't live in the forest. And you can't live down by the river, and you can't live you can live in an apartment if you can afford it. Or if you've jumped through enough hoops that an organization will pay for it for you based on what other people have paid so that way they have the ability to pay a landlord, right? So right now we have tax dollars being funneled through poor people into corporate bank accounts, landlords. And I'm not talking the landlord that has one or two houses or even 20 houses. I'm talking about the landlord that has 200 or 2,000, and they have property management companies taking care of it for them. So I mean, all they're doing is just managing the flow of money from the government through the poor person into their corporate bank account, money that isn't even. Learn a little bit about fractional reserve lending, you'll recognize that, hey, there's some motivation for the bankers to help, because yeah, learn about fractional reserve banking. That's a good rabbit hole to explore. I mean, because Henry Ford, he said it many years ago. If the American population knew about their banking industry, there would be a revolution overnight. Well, you know what? I don't believe in a revolution. I believe in evolution. Once we're conscious of something, we make steps to take. Then we start working in a direction that is more favorable. I mean, a lot of the people that are supporting what is currently being supported, I don't think it's even being done maliciously. They're just in ignorance and in pride and in ego. Because I try to talk to a cop about the law, and automatically they will want to throw you to the ground and throw you in the back of their car so they can throw you in front of a judge. How dare you question their authority? But you know what? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And when the ignorant people are wearing a costume and a badge, no excuse. When I've ran into so county, well, all over the place, because I've been pulled over when I've harmed nobody. There's been no crime that I've been suspect of committing. But this just the assumption of guilt, which is the violation of due process of law, right? This is it's knucking futs what people are willing to put up with right now. And they say, oh, the blue line, the blue lying bitches. Because you know what? Cops, they lie. They lie to get you to incriminate yourself so they can put cuffs on you. The blue line should be a filter for the finest, not a shield of accountability or shield from accountability. But that's what's happening because they're harming people. They're overstepping their professional boundaries and jurisdiction. They're harming people when that person has actually committed no crime. Because a crime has to involve a victim. And when there's no victim, there's no crime. But when somebody just breaks a law that somebody else somewhere made up, the real perpetrator becomes the police officer. They become a treasonous tyrant when they are working outside of their authority. And their authority is what is limited by the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States does not grant me or you our rights. They enumerate our rights so that public servants can work to the will of the majority as established through a democratic process without violating the natural inalienable rights of the individual, especially when they haven't harmed anyone. What we have is a problem of a nation full of psychopaths, people willing to control other people, hypocrites, people who wouldn't throw you in a cage that harmed anyone, but they will gladly cheer on the Bubba Gump police officer, right? Try to grow your own food. You got organizations that'll try to get you on that too. There was a family down in, I think it was Missouri. They were They were being threatened with jail time because the local statute, somebody somewhere made up a rule that you can't grow food in your front yard. You have to grow grass. And they were like, I don't want to grow grass because this side of my house is capable of growing food because that's the side that gets the sun. So I put out a thing on my Facebook, and a few other people put things out on their social network platforms, and we gave the phone number to the entity that was threatening jail time and or jail time and fines to these people. And a lot of people called and said, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that. That's immoral. That's unjust. That's treasonous." We could figure out we're in the information age. We can find out your own personal addresses and who you love and all these things. Dangerous occupation that you're in, because tyranny isn't something that should be tolerated. Their minds. They said, "Hey, gardens are great. You can have a garden in your front yard if you like to." On the television programming? Probably not. Did you hear about the standoffs that have happened against government agencies who are operating outside of their jurisdiction? And then when they back down because people stand up, you don't hear about those, right? Do you remember Lavoy Finicum, who was shot dead for standing up for people's rights? He was on his way to go talk to the sheriff, and the state police ambushed him and killed him. But do you hear about that? Do you know she had her brown little hands, her dirty little hands in that whole mess too? But nothing happens. Nobody cares. But I think with awareness comes desire for change. And the people that are aware, now they're being mocked as being woke. Well, the difference between woke and awakened is simple. Being woke is being aware of the problems and going mad about it because you don't know the solutions, right? You're aware of all of this shit that's going, oh my God, what's going on? And and I'm woke, right? But then when you get heavily meditated and you are awakened, you recognize that the solutions are actually pretty simple. But we're treating things as a collective rather than as a group of individuals. And when I really trust that individuals having more freedom is safer than politicians having more power. Because most people that I talk with, they believe in self-ownership. They're willing to abide by a non-aggression principle. Not meaning that they'll never be violent, but they just won't initiate it. But if you come and crap on their lunch, they're probably gonna teach you that you shouldn't do that. Back when I was a kid, when you didn't unfriend somebody by pushing a little button on the computer, you punched them in the face, right? Because when I was being bullied, my first day of kindergarten, I was being bullied all day long. I told the teacher, I'm like, "Hey, teacher, my mom said not to fight, and you guys said not to fight, but this kid's trying to fight me," and they wouldn't do anything about it. And so the second day of kindergarten was my first fight. I flattened his face with my fists, and he never bothered me again. Now, looking back, I would have recognized maybe there's something going on in his house that is causing him to be a little asshole to me. So we could have figured it out without violence. But, sometimes violence is the answer, especially when you're 5. And those that are put to keep us safe aren't. So I knew at 5 that we shouldn't be paying on every level. When are you going to learn that?